Hi guys, we are going to be looking today at something called dihybrid crosses. Before we were doing something called monohybrid crosses, and you may remember that the word mono means one and that the word di means two. You should remember that from when we talked about monosaccharides and disaccharides. So today when we talk about dihybrid crosses, what that means is we're going to be looking at two traits at the same time. So instead of just looking at something like big R, we're going to be looking at two traits. So for example, instead of like just hair color, we'd look at hair color and eye color. So Gregor Mendel, the father of modern genetics, discovered that in pea plants there was a gene for round seeds, which you can see is dominant, big R, and is dominant to wrinkled seeds, which is recessive. Okay, so wrinkled seeds is recessive. He also discovered that yellow seed color is dominant to green seed color. Okay, so yellow is the dominant trait, whereas green is the recessive trait. He then took a purebred big R, big Y plant, so that means it's got homozygous dominant for both traits, and a purebred green and wrinkled seed plant that's homozygous. I just wanted to show you guys a picture of seeds so you guys could see. These are some of the peas that you can get from pea plants. You can see that this one, for example, right here is very smooth, and most of these are wrinkled. A lot of these are dehydrated, so they look more wrinkled, but they are either smooth or wrinkled from the beginning before they're dried. And then you can see that they're either green or yellow. So that's what we're talking about here. Now, the parent generation, since we started with a purebred round yellow and a purebred wrinkled green, we know that when this pea generation, when they have their F1 offspring, their children, they have to inherit two traits from each parent. They're going to each inherit one for color and one for shape. So in this case, what we're going to do is we know that there's going to be a capital R that they inherit from this parent, but from this parent they have to inherit a lowercase r because this parent has to pass on one of their R's. This one is going to be yellow, and then this one is going to have to pass on the green trait. So all of the offspring, every plant board, these two, when they're crossed, there might end up being hundreds of seeds from crossing this plant with this plant, and all of them will be the same. They'll all be this, because they'll have one R from this parent, one R from this parent, one Y from this parent, one Y from this parent. Okay? This is how we learned in meiosis, right? We're going to have the genes cross, and then we're going to have them come together. So, I want you to notice something very important here. I kept them, even though this is a lowercase letter, I kept it next to the trait that it goes with, okay? We're talking about round or wrinkled here, and we're keeping those together. So we're going to do alphabetical first, and then within the alphabeticals, keeping those two together, we're also going to keep the capitals first amongst the ones that they're alphabetically the same as, okay? So keep the gene together. Do not write it like this. Okay, don't write it like that. Don't write it like this. Okay, don't choose some other way. Always use this method. Alphabetical first, then do capital first within the alphabetical ones. Okay, what would the phenotype be for all these offspring? Well, it said here that round is dominant. Remember, you only have to have one R to be round. And then yellow is dominant. So 100% of all of the plants that are made from this cross will be round and yellow seeds. Now, show Mendel's F1 cross below. So now we're going to take two of those plants and we're going to cross-pollinate them with each other. So the beginning plant from the mom, or from the dad here, the male, is big R, little r, big Y, little y, and it's the same thing for the mom. Okay, now what we're going to do next is similar to the FOIL method in math, if you know what that is. What we're going to do is look at all of the possible combinations of sperm that this father could make, or in this case pollen is the sperm of plants, and the eggs that this plant can make. So we're going to be basically showing all the different variety that can happen in meiosis. So I'm going to write it here just so you guys know how to think about this when you're setting it up yourself. You should set things up similar to this. Maybe you need some scratch paper to remind you if you have a hard time. We need to figure out what 4 sperm are possible that we could make. Okay, these are going to be the little sperm cells from this genotype. So we like to say we could do this first one. We could distribute this big R to this big Y. So we could have big R, big Y sperm. Or we could do it by distributing this big R to the little y. So big R, little y sperm. Or we could have this as a possible combination, little r with a big Y. Or we could have little r with a little y. Okay? So these are the 4 possible combinations that we would get, represented here by these colors green and pink. Okay? So now what we have to do, both the mother and the father started with this genotype. So these are the same, these are the sperm that we could make, but these are also the same as the eggs that could be made. So we need to put each of these onto the Punnett square over here. But first, let's write the answer to the question, which says, what are the possible gametes, pollen grains or eggs, from these plants? And that's what we just figured out. Okay, so we can write that down, big R, big Y. Or we could get big R, little y, or little r, big Y, or little r, little y. Okay? Now, how are we going to put this on the Punnett square? I recommend putting dominant ones first, so I'm going to do it in this order across the top and the same order across the side. Big R, little y, little r, big Y. Little r, little y, and notice here I kept the r first because I said alphabetical order wins over capital. Big R, big Y. I'm writing these again down the side. Big R, little y, little r, big Y, and little r, little y. Okay? So now bring these two together. If this sperm and this egg came together, we'd have a big R, big R, big Y, big Y. If this sperm and this egg came together, big R, big R, big Y, little y. These two come together, big R, little r, big Y, big Y. These two come together, big R, little r, big Y, little y. Then over here, these come together, big R, but there's a big Y and a little y. Still 2 big R's here. 2 little y's. Over here, a big and a little r, and a big and a little y. And over here, we have big R, little y, R, and then 2 little y's. These 2, big little r, and 2 big y's. Here, a big and a little r, and this time a big and a little y. Okay, let's come this way. Big R, little r, big Y, little y. Over here, little r, big Y, big Y. And then over here, little r, big Y, little y. Notice I kept these first, even though, just like over here. Okay, so we've got to always keep it alphabetical. Over here, you could, if you want, pause the video for a second, see if you know these on your own, hopefully. Big R, little y, little y. Little R, big Y, little y. And then over here. Okay, now we have the Punnett square filled in. Notice instead of each one being 1 out of 4, we have 1 out of 16 because it's a 4x4 grid. So we have a lot of things to look at. Now let's try and answer some of these questions. The questions here say, what are the chances of having offspring with round yellow seeds? So when I look at something that asks me what phenotype I'm looking for, what I like to do is think, what are the 4 genes I need to have a certain copy of an allele here? So it says, what are the chances of having offspring with round yellow seeds? Well, to be round, we're talking about looking at the 2 R's at the beginning. I need a big R, but the second R doesn't matter because it's a dominant trait. Yellow, that means here in this position, I'll need to have a capital Y. But the next position doesn't matter. So what I like to do is I like to put like a box here. Like this doesn't matter and this doesn't matter, but I need something that at least has 1 big R and 1 big Y. So what I do then is I'm going to go around, I'm going to designate a yellow stripe here to represent that, and I'm going to highlight it on my Punnett square. So this one has a big R and a big Y, so I'm just going to highlight there. This has a big R and a big Y, and so does this one. Big R, big Y, big R, big Y, big R, little y, so I'm not going to do that one. Big R, big Y, big R, little y, so I'm going to ignore this one. Big R, big Y, yes. Big R, big Y, yes. Little r's, so no. Little r's, no. Okay, we've got, yep. This one doesn't have the big Y. This one doesn't have the big R. And this one doesn't have either. Okay, so I want you to notice whenever we do a Punnett square, if we set it up like this, we will always have up this side, across the top, and diagonal will be where your dominant traits are. Okay, if you're crossing 2 heterozygous like this. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We end up with 9 out of 16. Okay? What are the chances of having offspring with round green seeds? Okay, so let's look at that. 1, 2, 3, 4. What do you need to be round and green? For round, you have to have the big R. For green, you have to have a little y. But if you had a big Y, you would have yellow. So you actually have to have a yellow, no yellow at all. It has to be 2 little y's. But this box doesn't matter. So the second position doesn't matter because it'll be round no matter what if it has a capital R. So let's look at our Punnett square for this. So this one has a capital R and 2 lowercase y's. So this fits my thing I'm looking for. And then over here, capital R with 2 lowercase y's. Now this one doesn't have a capital R, no capital R, no capital R, no capital R. But this one has a capital R with 2 lowercase y's. So we can see this one is 3 out of 16. Okay. Now for the next one we're looking at, what are the chances of having anything with yellow seeds? So here we're saying we don't care about the other trait. We don't care if they're round or wrinkled. We just want to know who has yellow seeds. So we don't care about the first or second or fourth position. We just want to know anyone who has a capital Y. So I'm going to actually take this orange. I'm going to highlight things, okay, if it has a capital Y. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, so I got 12 that have a capital Y. 12 out of 16, you may know, reduces if we divide this both by 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3. 16 divided by 4 is 4. So that would be the same as 75%. This would be like if we looked at just a monohybrid and we just looked at a small Punnett square, it would be 3 out of 4 because we're just looking at yellow. If we got rid of the round and didn't look at that at all. Now this next one is asking for green. So we don't care about round or wrinkled. We just care if it's green. So to be green, you have to have 2 little y's, like this one, or this one, or this one, or this one. So here we have 4 out of 16. And just like this, we're looking at yellow seeds, green seeds. Yellow seeds will be 12 out of 16. This will be that extra 4 out of 16. That'll be, divide those by 4, so we get 1 out of 4, 25%. So this is our normal monohybrid cross ratio is what we're looking at when we focus on just one of the genes. Now, let's look specifically if we want a specific genotype. Like what if we want to say which one is going to be a purebred, pure round, pure yellow, just like this parent was up here. So this case, we're saying pure round, so you have to have both R's, and pure yellow, so you have to have both capital Y's. We're looking for something so specific. This is the only thing that matches that. Okay? Big round, big yellow. All of these have at least one recessive trait, so none of these other ones are going to fulfill that ratio, or that genotype, I should say. So 1 out of 16. Okay? Now, you are going to be trying this out. Come back to this video if you're confused on things. But here we're going to look at some human traits, and then on the next page you're going to look at some cat traits. Okay? So it'll say cats, brown, black, long, short for their fur type. Okay? Okay, good luck with that. Let me know if you have questions. Bye-bye.